We need workers. We need great workers. And this pretty much ensures that that's what's going to happen. I think, Sean, do you agree with that?
Well, they're $100,000 per year. So the whole idea is no more will these big tech companies or other big companies train foreign workers. They have to pay the government $100,000, then they have to pay the employee. So it's just not economic. If you're going to train somebody, you're going to train one of the recent graduates from one of the great universities across our land, train Americans, stop bringing in people to take our jobs. That's the policy here, $100,000 a year for H-1B visas, and all of the big companies are on board. We've spoken to them about the gold card.
They love it. They love it. They really love it. They need it. The country would rather not have to pay $100,000, but and they'd rather, how do you do that? You hire Americans. So there's an incentive to hire American, but there may be instances where it's better off doing through expertise or whatever it may be. But they're both unbelievable, whether it's a gold card or anything else that we talked about today.
A seismic shift that we are seeing in America's immigration policy. Hello and welcome to NDTV Profit. This is Hiral Dadia. You're watching this special edition where Trump has gone ahead and slapped a $100,000 fee in terms of where H-1B visa is concerned. What are the details? Let's quickly look at all of that right here. Firstly, a $100,000 fee on the new H-1B visas. What would this mean is the key question from here on. Now, this may impact businesses that add workers through visas. You're talking about the IT industry, which is going to be the one which is majorly hit. Yes, there could be medical as well that could be considered from here on. But from here on, the companies are going to decide whether onshoring employees matches the benefit of this. Moving on, if you talk about the other details as well, it says that foreign workers are displacing American tech jobs. What does this mean? Does this move actually provide any benefit to American citizens or not when you're talking about American talent? Because the companies are accused of layoffs while hiring thousands on H-1B visas. So will the companies be compelled to actually hire within the country US citizens and not actually rely on H-1B visa holders? Now, this move also aims to protect the US jobs and raise wages from here on. And if you talk about the H-1B program, it makes nearly 85,000 visas available each year. This is data that we're picking up so far. But on the back of this, first up, an exclusive that my colleague Rishabh Bhatnagar gets for us in terms of the letters that have gone out from companies. Rishabh, what are you picking up?
Absolutely. This is a major human interest story as well. You have the likes of various big tech companies like Meta, Microsoft, Intel, Amazon, and several others that employ a large number of Indian engineers, a large number of Indian STEM graduates that actually are employed with these companies in the US. They have been internally communicating with these workers, these H-1B workers, that it is recommended, highly recommended and strongly advised that if these workers are currently outside of the US, to return to the US in the next 24 to 26 hours, or whether if you have any sort of travel plans to not venture out of the US for the next 14 days at least, and for the foreseeable future as well. This is a major move. This has caused a lot of anxiety, a lot of nervousness among this very important diaspora that lives in the US. Remember, about 70% of all H-1B visa holders are actually Indians. So it is a large chunk of Indians that live there, that work there for these very large big tech companies, and these stand to be impacted now. A lot of uncertainty, of course, and a lot of these companies are still trying to find the practical implications of this proclamation that was signed by President Trump. So a lot of people still in wait and watch mode. You'll perhaps see a lot of people coming back to India, or actually rather going back to the US. Given the fact that this order puts them in a very precarious state. So we will keep a track of all of these developments.
Thank you, Rishabh, for that, because this is helpful information as well, because all of the companies are now writing to their employees as well, either to come back if they're out of the country or stay put because the denial should not be happening from here on. But one company that's joining us exclusively on NDTV Profit, we have Venkatraman Narayanan, Managing Director at Happiest Mind Technologies. Mr. Narayanan, welcome to the show and a pleasure to speak to you as always on NDTV Profit. This is a major move coming in with regards to where H-1B visa goes. Trump categorically saying now $100,000, and that's the executive order that has been signed. Your initial comments?
Yeah, thanks, Hiral, for getting me on the show. Yes, it was a kind of a rude surprise this morning. Noticed it at about 5 o'clock through various feeds that this has been announced by the president of the U.S. We started, going through the fine print. As much of reading was possible has been done, but we, like I think you indicated earlier, the immediate requirement is to make sure that customer interests are protected, and at the same time, our people who are in between or transit or travel back to India, or whose visa is coming up for renewal, their issues are addressed. Those are the things that are primarily on our mind right now. And then we'll need to also sit down and starting next week, plan for the longer term. But as a company, we have been largely offshore. 96-97% of our business comes from a business offshore. We have been like that for the last 13 years, and so materially it's not going to affect us. But yes, from a customer delivery standpoint, we need to evaluate how this will work out, and also from people. And there are families. They've got people staying overseas. If there is somebody who's caught between the stools, how do we handle that? Those are the things that are primarily running first on our mind, and we are working to see what needs to be done to address issues on that front.
Right. Mr. Narayana, the other question that I have for you right now is, Indian tech firms have been actually steadily reducing their reliance when it comes to H-1B visas, and that's been the trend that the data has been indicating as well so far. In fact, local hiring has been increased right now. Taking this aspect into consideration, where do you think that the industry sits on right now? How much is the reliance, number one? And two, how soon will that shift in strategy happen from here on?
I think that kind of a shift has been in process for some time now. Most large companies have shifted from being completely H-1B dependent to largely recruiting local. And as companies have been growing larger, they have been acquiring companies overseas. So with that come local talent. We have a brand now in the U.S. Earlier, that would have been an issue many years back when we weren't able to attract the right talent. But today we have the brand. We are able to attract the right talent. We are able to train them. The presence of tech companies, earlier services companies, was more in terms of a liaison or a branch office. I'm talking about many years back, but now today most of the large companies have established centers there, and the entire infrastructure that one sees in India, a small part of that is replicated in the U.S. And they've been recruiting locally, even into going deeper into colleges, local colleges, and building up their skill sets and capabilities there. So which is what we have been also doing. We as a company have been recruiting locally, and which is why we have not been able to, we are not having too many of those H1 numbers like in the past years. So this is a trend that had started. And then came COVID. During COVID, travel came to a standstill. Work moved offshore, and people started realizing that what could be done there, if it had to be done with that kind of technical finance, you could do it from India. So work had gravitated. Now going forward, I think those moves will just get accelerated. We'll have more of work happening boundaryless, seamless manner between countries with the clients and ourselves on an on-site offshore model. So that's how we see this hopefully playing out. But I don't want to also say in what I read, I think this will be also subject to various challenges. People will, rise up against this. So there could be some sort of a relief also could happen in the next, couple of weeks or months or whatever. And then we'll get used to the way of doing business in the new environment.
I'm sure that's what usually happens. But, do you think that on the back of this, the costs, because they go up, it will impact margins of IT companies? And two, it could actually delay project timelines as well, taking into consideration the increased contract values?
There will be certain, transitionary issues will obviously be there because, COVID hit, people started had to figure out how to work seamlessly from home. That did take some time. In a similar vein, this is kind of a shock because nobody really expected this. At least speaking for myself, I didn't expect this. While there were talks about trade barriers and all of that being put in place, or duties, this was not something that we expected. But yes, it's now happened. We'll have to see how to come out of this. There will be transitionary issues. Working with the client, we'll have to see how costs can be addressed, amortized, because if there is a real demand for a particular person's skill, capability, you will have to do that. You will have to, figure out how to defray the costs. But yes, there will be certain, shifts that will happen immediately. So yeah, if you're evaluating things on a quarter basis, there can be some bit of, ups and downs.
Got it. Thank you so much, Mr. Narayanan. Always a pleasure to speak to you and understand, the way industry is thinking from here on. But let's also get in Paresh Karya, CEO at Aquest Advisors, Immigration Advisor, Anil Trigunaya, IFS retired Distinguished Fellow at Vivekanand International Foundation, and Renthala Chandrasekhar, former President at NASSCOM, joining us as well. Welcome to the show, gentlemen, and always a pleasure to speak to you as well. Even with regards to, the way these immigration changes do come in. In fact, let me go across to Mr. Paresh Karya. Mr. Karya, the immigration changes that have happened in terms of H-1B visa fees, you're talking about $100,000 that have been slammed. I'm sure you've been getting frantic calls on it as well as to what is to be done from here on. Your initial comments.
Yeah. So yes, this has come as a big surprise to everybody, and it has jolted out early in the morning to everybody over here in India. This announcement came via proclamation and not an executive order. There is a technical difference, but practically it means the same, that yes, you have to pay $100,000 fees for H-1B visa. What is important to keep in mind over here is this is, from the way this order has been proposed in a very rushed way. So we really don't know. We are still awaiting clarity. But what it appears that this is going to be for new foreign workers who are going to be entering into the US. It does not apply to people who are already in the US. Right?
So does this, let me come in over here. When it does not apply to people who are already in the US, will this apply with regards to renewal fees as well?
Well, that needs to be seen. Clarity is there. As of now, that it says, what it says, foreign workers coming into the US, it is applicable to them. Right?
Okay.
So that is one of the implications. Now, whether somebody who is already on the H-1B visa, transitioning, renewing it, or whether somebody who is on F-1 visa and from F-1 visa applying for the H-1B lottery in the US, as of now, from the text of it, it appears that they would be exempt. It will not affect them. So it will affect only new people entering the US for H-1B visa. We'll have to wait for more clarity on this. But from the plain reading of the text, which has been given so far, it appears that. Right?
So this is only for someone who's entering US for the first time. For them, these H-1B visa fees will apply, who are going on H-1B visa, obviously. Stay with us. In fact, let me get in Mr. Anil Trigunayat as well. Mr. Trigunayat, taking into consideration the kind of relationship that we've shared with the US as well, currently we were talking about things where conversations are going on, at least when the penal tariffs go or the US tariffs go. This has come in like another slam right now. What would you have to say?
Well, the thing is that if you were talking about, you use the word in past tense as far as our relationship is concerned. Frankly, we officially have this global comprehensive strategic partnership in which tech transfer and tech collaboration is a very critical element. But if you know Mr. Trump and you have heard him from the very beginning, he has been under his MAGA, has been trying to, uh, reduce the intake of foreign professionals, foreigners, his anti-immigration policies, and even dispatching a large number of people out has been seen in the past. So this is not something that should have come an utter surprise. What could be surprising is, I mean, there were definitely reports that there could be a reduction in numbers or increasing the difficulty level for getting the H-1 visas. But what he has tried to do is impose a fine on the companies if they wish to take some. So he wants to make it into a kind of a revenue model which should work for whatever fee you give when you are going to get any person. On the other hand, it works as a deterrence for the companies, a large number of companies. It, for me personally, I feel that initially there will be some problems. There are a lot of clarity is not there. We don't know if there will be a retraction of some dimensions of it eventually. But overall, as we know that it is going to impact very adversely the United States itself. Now, as you know that if you were to see the statistics, there are 1.2 million children who drop out from high school every year. In the college first year, more than 1 million children don't return back after first year. So this is the kind of situation that is prevailing in the country. And the technological edge that the United States has maintained thus far has been due to the immigrants who have been coming there, these professionals, including large number of Indians, who can be credited with United States progress. Of course, they have an ecosystem and everything. So this is like cutting the nose to spite the face, or whatever you might call it. But for the Indians, it could be seen in two ways. One is a short-term pain, but if the government and the industry are prepared and wanting to, use this talent, we could be on a very high growth path as far as technological edge and achievements are concerned. But we need to understand, and of course, the government has been trying, it has to gear up, and hopefully, we will see that these difficulties, why should Indians go out? As simple as that. Today, in any case,
Got it.
you have the Japanese, the Singaporeans, the Germans, the Chinese, everybody is looking for Indian talent. And there'll be no dearth of jobs. But if you still want to go to a place where a democracy sword is always hanging over your head, then I believe that it is up to each individual.
Absolutely. In fact, stay with us. We'll go across to Mr. Chandrasekhar as well. Mr. Chandrasekhar, interesting commentary that's coming in from NASSCOM currently, where they're saying that the potential ripple effects will be seen on America's wider job economy. It will impact Indians working on H-1B visa for global and Indian companies as well. And they could face disruption in terms of where current projects go. In fact, one of the aspects is where India is reducing their reliance with regards to the H-1B visas, and they've increased local hiring in recent years. How would you expect the Indian IT diaspora, or even global IT giants who have a lot of employees on H-1B visa, to react to this and the kind of impact you're seeing on these companies?
Obviously, this sudden imposition with hardly any time to adjust or adapt of a $100,000 fee being attached to H-1B visas for anybody, even with a valid H-1B visa entering the US without the $100,000 fee, they would not be allowed. So clearly, this is going to have a big impact on the way that the business operates in the US, on companies in India which provide those services, and also on companies, American companies in the US, as well as the client companies who use these kind of services. And we should remember that the recourse to H-1B visas, foreign workers in general, not even specifically Indian, is rooted in the shortage of such skilled workers in the US. And I think, one of the suggestions which was given by a highly placed authority in the US was that companies should hire people, Americans from American universities. Now, interestingly, in a lot of the technical programs in the US universities, it's mostly foreigners who are in those universities. I remember when I was doing my master's in computer science also, 90% of the students in the master's in computer science program were non-Americans, 40% from the Indian subcontinent, 40% from the Chinese diaspora, 10% European. So I think that this will have, there'll be a lot of issues which will be faced, not just by the companies in India and the US, but equally, it will also be faced by the American economy itself.
Correct, correct.
And I think that, the statement that NASSCOM has issued, I think, highlights these points as well.
Absolutely. In fact, stay with us. Let me head across to my colleague Malika, who's here with us to tell us more in terms of the impact that IT as a sector could see.
Definitely. And let me actually set the context by telling you that the fees currently, that is about $7,000 to $10,000, has now been increased by about $100,000. So basically, you're paying $1 lakh extra now to get the same H-1B visa. Let's take a look at how the Indian IT sector could be impacted. Now, if you look at the grip that Indian, IT has on H-1B visas, data says that in fiscal year 2024, Indian beneficiaries accounted for about 71%, dwarfing China's contribution to just about 11% and a little more ahead of that. And other countries, other prevalent countries and beneficiaries include Philippines, Canada, and as well as South Korea. Now, let's take a look at the number of visas issued by top Indian tech companies in FY25. And you see on the top of that list is TCS at 5,512. And then there's Infosys, almost half down at 2,028. Then it's HCL Tech at 1,700 odd levels. And then you have Wipro at 1,500 and Tech Mahindra at 957. Now, that's the number of visas that were issued by Indian tech companies. Now, let's look at the denial rate also. Historical evidence shows that in almost Trump's era, 2018-2019, the denial rate was as high as 18% and 22%. But then that sort of softened under Biden's administration. That denial rate really reduced to 3 and 4%. Now, because of this, companies, as mentioned before, started reducing their dependence on H-1B workers. And the next graphic plate will exactly show you that. Now, the reliance on visas is declining since 2016. And if you see, we have a table of comparison for you where you would see that companies have gradually decreased their reliance on hiring H-1B workers. Now let's also take a look at, yes, and that's the table I was talking about. If you see TCS in 2016, 12,126 was the level, but now in 2024, that's come down to 7,574. And it's the same trend that you would observe across these top 5 companies. Now, in a nutshell, what could this mean in the future for Indian IT? Well, tier 1 IT companies could get usually get about 1,500 to 5,000 visas per year. This could H-1B hike could trigger high incremental cost impacting margins. The next point is that increased contract values could delay project timelines. This could also impact their margins. And lastly, this could also lower their exposure to H-1B workers in the US.
Thank you so much, Malika, for that, because this categorically tells us the way, hiring has been so far, the dependence that Indian IT has on H-1B visa, and the way dependency has been going down as well. But a couple of brokerages that have come up with their reports as well. Let's go across to Jasmeet to understand what brokerages are making out of this news and the impact they are seeing. Jasmeet, over to you.
Well, right. So we have brokers that has come up with the note on H-1B, and to get down the overall impact on the Indian IT, we have Nuvama first. What Nuvama is penciling in an impact of 200 to 400 basis points on the business based out of US. That's something to watch out for. While they also say that it's going to be a big negative for overall stock going forward. While what they say is that Indian IT companies have over the time reduced their dependency on the H-1B visa, so that's one positive. But they also see that this drastically downtrend has started since 8 years during the initial trend of Trump as president. Now, what they also notice, this impact is not just for India, but for all the other countries as well. So it's going to be negative for the overall general crowd. Now, when we also have Investec on H-1B, now what Investec is saying is they expect a strong negative reaction for the stock going forward. They also see that 1/3 of the H-1B visa gets generally renewed. So that will be an additional cost for the companies. Now, while they also make a note, if the companies have to match up with the level, they will have to pay an additional of $20,000 to $30,000 per employee. Well, this will increase the cost, impacting the margin. It will also lead to hiring of a lot of local people, which might not impact the work-life balance given that. While they also see we have dollar capital on the H-1B, what they see is the fees could cost a negative incremental cost of $150 million to $500 million on the companies going forward. They note that 30 to 50% of the cost arbitrage would go away over the time. While lastly, we have HDFC Securities. What they say on the overall scenario is, they say there's been no immediate impact on the current visa holders, but the renewal is something to watch out for. While they also see that sending employees to US will become significantly more expensive for the companies going forward. While they also see the US tech companies are expected to make a shift towards their GCCs, which are based out of India.
Thank you so much, Jasmeet, for that. So that's an interesting note that we've seen from Nuvama as well, who's talking about the kind of impact that would be coming in. Overall, very quickly, HDFC Securities is also saying that there is no immediate impact on cost for current H-1B holders. Dolat Capital is saying that the fees may cause a significant incremental cost from almost $150 to $500 million. So that's the impact that we're talking about. We're running short of time completely, but let me thank all our guests as well who've joined us, Mr. Karya, Mr. Anil Trigunayat, who was on the show as well, and Mr. Chandrasekhar. In fact, we will try touching base again to see and ascertain what could this mean for Indian IT as a sector. And you have the ADRs in overnight trade, Infosys Wipro, which did end lower. It's going to be interesting in terms of Monday morning from here on.